Hi, I'm Rose, and you're watching The Sovereign Soul. This is a Fix You for Free series for people who have cancer and no money and want to find a way forward for themselves that's not sitting in mainstream versions. People who want to understand themselves, empower themselves, and choose how they're going to walk this path. I have spoken about mindset in a few or two of the other videos, and I'm going to talk about it today. I'm going to unpack a little bit as to why I think I've landed up in a situation in the first place with cancer. I can give you the physical reasons. So I know that I've been struggling with inflammation. I know that I have had insulin resistance. I know that my hormones haven't been balanced. I know that my diet hasn't been optimal. I know my mitochondria has been slack. I know that I had a low-lying infection because of a root canal. I know lots of practical reasons, but none of those tick the full picture for me because we are holistic. And it won't only be physical reasons as to why my immune system all of a sudden became so compromised that I started growing tumors in my right breast. But I do have an inkling and an understanding as to why I think I would have created a situation. I do believe I'm sovereign and I make choices, whether consciously or not. I've made a choice to be where I'm at, and I know I chose it because I'm here in the situation facing tumors in my breast as a single mom at 48 years old, and I don't really want to leave them. So I've put myself in the situation, and I think it's important for me to understand the whys and the hows, because that gives me the ability to make a different choice for myself. So I'm going to tell you what I think it is. I'm going to first call it value, a lack of self-value. I was raised like probably most people on the planet who had parents and siblings who were not emotionally intelligent. Let's put it on the caretakers only, because children can't be blamed for what children do, but it's how they taught. So I didn't have value. Never. I've never understood that I am a valuable human being. I can understand it in theory, but ultimately, no. I've always been incredibly in the small ego inferiority. I am not enough, like, path. And then I have struggled with my worth, therefore, which are not the same things to me. Value is an intrinsic knowing that you're awesome, that you bring something awesome to wherever you are, whatever your unique you-ness is. So whatever my roseness is actually supposed to be quite awesome, and it should be awesome to me. It should be awesome to anyone else. So I think I've struggled with that. And then, I've had a challenging life. I haven't had a life that's been easy breezy. I don't think those are the reasons why I have it. But I think when the COVID thing happened in the world, it kind of pulled the carpet out from underneath me. I was born an eternal optimist. For my benefits or not, I don't know. Or maybe I was just somebody who saw potential, and that's why I came to this planet in the first place, because I saw potential. And not only in my life, but in every single human being on Earth's life. Potential to live from their divinity as opposed to living from the worst parts of themselves. So potential to kick spiritual amnesia in the arse and live beyond their ego, to live heaven on earth. Maybe I saw that potential, because that's the kind of positivity and optimism that I have just been born with in a very weird situation, in a weird way. But in growing up like I did, not only did I not have value in myself, I didn't understand my value. I haven't connected with it in knowing my value, like I know my children's value, or I know my friends' value, or I know my clients' value. I'm struggling with that one still to this day. I'm working on it very consciously. But in that, there has been an abundance of self-loathing through my life, like humongous amounts. I've been over that for quite some time, though, but definitely dealt with that. Huge amounts of depression that came with whatever the stories were that I lived. And I even used to be chronically suicidal for quite a patch of my teens and early 20s, but that's behind me. I don't struggle from depression anymore, and I don't struggle with self-loathing anymore. Do I fully love myself? I don't think I've fully grasped that yet. I'm working on it very consciously. Anyway, Who's there? So there we go. So we've got probably remnants of this self-loathing, this low value, and then in this world of eternal optimism, COVID happens and you realize, my God, is there any hope for this planet? Is there any hope for the leadership of this planet? Is everybody on this planet just lambs being led to a slaughter? And I went down a pretty deep rabbit hole to know the truth. Not because I'm trying to torture myself, but because I want to know. I want to know so that I can make a conscious choice for myself. To me, the truth does set you free, even if it's not pretty. The truth is not going to be rainbows, butterflies, and unicorns. And you can listen to my podcast or watch other episodes, and you'll know what I mean when I talk about that. But ultimately, I think I got to a space of feeling quite hopeless and helpless. And then in my own journey of my own awakening and all those things that I was going through, I went through a nihilist stage where I realized nothing matters. Nothing matters. Nothing. Then maybe that was a way of me just detaching and realizing it didn't matter if I said something or if I didn't say something. I wasn't born with some divine purpose unless I gave that to myself. And so I was understanding things from a very different perspective. And so I went through a nihilist stage on top of that. And then I started feeling like I'm just a waste of a human body, because all of a sudden I didn't feel inspired by life, motivated to do things to help other people. I felt like it was all just coming from my ego. And it didn't mean diddly squat. And I started feeling like a waste of a body. Literally would say that and feel that in myself. If I couldn't get certain things right, failure is the first my go-to, which I've spoken about in another video. But more than anything, I was feeling totally powerless in this world to help, and thinking that even if I did or wanted to, it didn't matter anyway. There was no value from it other than from my ego that I created, because that's the way the world functions. And what's the point? I wasn't sure if, yeah, I just felt like a waste. Again, I suppose I would just reiterate anybody who doesn't feel like they have value. And then I landed up in an awful relationship. I will say that. Awful because it was very, very, very toxic and dysfunctional and very uncomfortable, but great from the perspective of it allowed me to see some of my own lack of self-value and love and lack of boundaries and all sorts of things on fucking steroids. So that was good. But it was very tough, and I think I'm much better and stronger for it, but it's taken me a really long time to get my head around it all. It's been, it's closer to 3 years than 2 that I've been out of that relationship, and still there's remnants of that experience, which was only about 8 months, or I don't know, maybe a year, I don't know. And somewhere I think that made me feel like I was failing my children and just failing at life and feeling quite hopeless and helpless, but at the same time not realizing that I keep planting the stuff in my being and in my body. And I knew I had lumps in my breast, but I thought they were cysts, because I've had cysts that come and go, and I think people freak out before they need to, but maybe I'm wrong, I don't know. And so I took probably a good year and a half before I finally even went for a sonogram, and that was because of different activity going on in this boob, which made me realize I think something's up. Houston, we have a problem. And so I have then gone to where I'm at now a year later. But point I'm trying to make is I can't find one rhyme or reason as to why somebody will get cancer. Because it can happen in a baby, it can happen in young children, it can happen in perfectly healthy people we seem are healthy. It can happen men or women, people on birth control, people not on birth control. There is no rhyme or reason as to what causes it. Some people are just more sensitive than others when it comes to the food, and there's definitely a lot on food and pharmaceuticals that contributes to an increase in cancer, and chemicals on food. So I'm not going to deny that. But ultimately, if you have to look at yourself holistically, you have to be honest enough to know that you yourself are harboring some kind of emotional switch off or disconnect from wanting to be living anymore. And that's really what it means. What in your life is hard, so hard that you feel that you are maybe failing, or not good at or so worthless, or that the world would be better off without you, maybe. So you could be consciously fighting to stay alive, but if you're still harboring those things at the bottom, you want to get to that. So in the last one, I spoke about being honest and real and compassionate and vulnerable with yourself for what you're feeling, what you think, and feeling your emotions and your thoughts. This is me really unpacking how I'm like a what's it called, an introspective frigging genius, I think. I don't get it all right, but I think that's my zone of genius, living in my body. I'm a master of myself. That's my expertise, me, and understanding myself and looking at myself as honestly as possible, because you can't self-actualize if you're not willing to do all those things. See it, be honest. And so I've unpacked in a very vulnerable way here what I think could be my emotional and spiritual reasons for not wanting to be on earth anymore and in my body, and why I could have brought this about unconsciously, subconsciously, but here I am very consciously aware that this is what's going on with me now. And if I'm not willing to look at all those things, I'm not going to fully heal from this experience. And I want to be fully healed, like in my spirit and in my soul. If we graze, my body fully heals too, 100%. But I want to be healed in all the different aspects of myself. And so I want to be completely honest with myself. And I have found purpose and meaning and fulfillment again in helping others, because that has always been, that's me. I was born a helper. And maybe it's in these videos or other videos on my podcast. Love my friggin' podcast or my blogs or my social media. I create content for people which I hope helps people at the deepest level of their being to be able to be completely sovereign, free on all levels of themselves. That the world around you doesn't defeat you, and that you are completely authentically living so that you can completely authentically freely die. That's like my thing, and that's what keeps me feeling like I have purpose. I mean, of course, I'm my children's mother, but children grow up and then they have to find their own life and their own purpose. I can't find my purpose in my children. They're not responsible for me. I'm responsible for them, and then I hope they will be fully responsible for themselves as they grow up. But I think you catch the gist of what I'm saying in this whole thing. You have to be willing to unpack yourself and sit with yourself and be honest with yourself as to what are you contributing to for this to happen. Because you're not only a victim of circumstance, you're not a victim of circumstance. In fact, it's your life, it's your body, and it's your journey, which means if you are sovereign, you've chosen it. There can be no other way. Whether you remember choosing it or not, you're here in the situation. So own it. And if you want to get better, own all the parts of you. You don't have to attach to it that has to be your story. I don't have to be a failure. I don't have to have no value. I don't have to keep living those experiences. But the only way that I can stop reliving them is if I'm aware of them in the first place, to let them the fuck go. So I don't have to live like I'm a waste of a body. I don't have to live like I don't have anything to contribute and I have no purpose. I can choose to create that all for myself and be a version of myself that doesn't have to feel weighted by the world, but rather I can be a light in the world, as we can all be. Okay, I'm gonna leave that there.